are the same person. Change my mind. Hello everyone. My name is Sophia and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going over all the lore from the kids show Little Einsteins. I first got this idea when YouTube recommended to me videos from the channel Athena P. On Athena's channel, she has this series going on called Lore, where she binge watches TV shows from the early 2000s and, you guessed it, explains their lore. When I saw Athena's videos, in addition to thinking, I love this, I also thought an excuse to rewatch my favorite childhood TV shows and overanalyze things while making a video out of it? Yes, please. I did see that Athena recently posted that she's going to be making her own Little Einsteins video. I promise I was in the process of making this video before she made that post. I'm really not trying to steal from her. Okay, so now the lore. In case you've never seen this show before, Little Einsteins is about a group of 4 little kids who always go on trips in their favorite rocket ship. Zooming through the sky, they're the Little Einsteins. Each episode, what drives the plot is they have a different mission of the day, which is usually something along the lines of doing a favor for an animal or throwing a big party. They end up traveling all around the world, and they always use the power of music to save the day. Before we go into the characters, first let's go over the format of the show. Like most shows, each episode begins with a theme song. This is pretty typical for a TV show, but in Little Einsteins, near the end of the song, we see the 4 characters standing on a stage where the name of the show and the Disney logo hang down from very visible ropes. Once the song ends, a curtain comes down and we hear the kids getting ready to put on a play and saying things to each other like, "Get ready, shh, shh." After this, one of the kids will peek their head through a curtain and introduce the title of the episode. As they're saying this, a title card will hang down. Then one of the other kids will come in from the side of the stage and introduce the art of the day. This will either be a famous painting or a cultural craft work from a region of the world that the Little Einsteins will visit during the episode. Next, the remaining 2 kids will introduce the music of the day and who the composer is. This will always be 4 bars of the melody from a very famous symphony that will be played over and over and over throughout the episode. At the end of the episode, once the story finishes, a curtain comes down again and we see the same stage where the Little Einsteins started. Then to end the episodes, they have a curtain call. In season 1, this is just the characters saying their names and then thanking the art and music of the day, while in season 2, the curtain call is done in song form as the kids sing "Rah, rah, rah" for Rocket. Now, because all episodes start and end in a homemade looking theater, you could try to say that this show is just 4 friends putting on plays for their parents and the places they travel to are just their imagination, but that takes all the fun out of this. That's like when a book ends with, "It was all just a dream." It feels like such a cop-out answer. The whole fun of the lore series is to figure out how a kids show universe works. So for the sake of this video, we're going to act like all of the adventures they go on actually happen. Once the theater setting introduction is over, the curtains open again and we see the Little Einsteins somewhere in the open that has absolutely no chance of fitting onto a stage. They're usually just hanging out when they realize that one of their friends needs a favor. This friend doesn't have to be one of them. It could also be one of their animal friends or their storybook friends or their musical instrument friends. They just realize that someone needs a favor and this becomes their mission of the day. In season 1, once they decide on a mission, they sing the "We've Got a Mission" song, but this stops in season 2. For their missions, they have to go to different parts of the world or sometimes even outer space, which is why they travel in a rocket ship. They keep this rocket ship in a giant bunker in their backyard, which they call the rocket room, and that acts as both a garage and a playroom. The entrance to this bunker is disguised in a tree. The entrance opens when each of the Little Einsteins press a button hidden in the tree knots and sing 2 parts each of Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So, La, Ti, Do. Then a secret door in the tree opens and each of the kids have their own way of getting down to where Rocket is. Quincy climbs down a rope, June has a slide, Annie takes this elevator-like thing, and Leo slides down a pole. Once they reach Rocket and climb inside, they make a really big deal of patting their laps to power up for blastoff. And they ask you, yes you, the viewer, you, to join them because they need more power! Once they head off, along their missions, they run into different obstacles that can all be solved with the power of music or dance. The show repeats the same few kinds of challenges over and over again. Most of them will be choosing the right door or pathway by listening to which one plays the same music as the music of the day, playing music louder to make something grow bigger, or playing music quieter to make a guard or a dangerous animal fall asleep, imitating or identifying different musical instruments, singing along to the music of the day, or dancing to maneuver through obstacles. And yes, they will break the fourth wall again because they really need you, yes you, the viewer, you, to help them. Different characters are more suited to help with different kinds of tasks. Going through the characters, first we have Leo. He's 6 years old and he's a prodigy in conducting orchestras. Leo's little sister Annie is another one of the Little Einsteins. She's 4 years old and she's a lyricist and the main singer of the group. Then there's Quincy. He's 5 years old and he's amazing at playing musical instruments. In the 5th episode, he says that he can play every single kind of musical instrument, and I believe him. Throughout the show, I counted, and we see him play 18 different musical instruments. I'm just going to show them on the screen and not list them out because I would lose track, but my guy Quincy is a one-man orchestra. And then we have June. She's 6 years old, just like Leo, and she's a dancer and choreographer, so she helps out with the movement kinds of tasks. Now, these 4 kids are the only human characters we see in the entire show. There are other characters that could be humans, like castle guards or some of the characters from fairy tales, but their character design looks very different from the Little Einsteins. They look more like dolls or puppets than people, and they also never talk. If they have to say anything, they communicate through music, which is why I consider the kids to be the only 4 human characters that we meet. Now that we covered the basic structure of the episodes, let's go into the role that music plays in the show. I cannot emphasize enough how integral music is to Little Einsteins. As a kid, I always thought this show was educational because they travel all around the world and you learn about different places and cultures, but no. Rewatching now that I'm older, I can say that music is the most educational part of the show. Yes, they travel to different places, but you really only learn a tiny bit about one landmark, if that. The music of the day is the real focus of the story, and in each episode, they repeatedly cover the same music-related words like crescendo, diminuendo, forte, allegro, to really hammer in famous melodies and music terminology. To begin with, music is not just a sound in Little Einsteins. It is a force of the universe. It actively plays a part in the story. Music playing too fast is what sets the plot in motion for a few different episodes. To give examples, in the first episode, music playing too fast causes Saturn's rings to spin out of control and come loose, leading the Little Einsteins to search for them and bring them back. And again, in season 1, episode 21, music playing too fast causes the big and small machine to lose control and shrink the Little Einsteins. It's also confirmed that in the Little Einsteins universe, music is the reason why the sun comes up every day. It is why the stars come out every night, and it's why the wind blows. Music even has the power to cause volcanoes to erupt, and it can resize things and control their motion. The Little Einsteins can even open locks and have objects float out to them just by tapping into an object's music. Music is also alive in Little Einsteins. Musical instruments are another kingdom of living beings. How are they alive? Well, there are a few different ways we've seen them born. In season 1, episode 10, when the Little Einsteins are growing a garden, we see that musical instruments can be grown from seeds just like plants. Another episode though, season 2, episode 9, shows that musical instruments are hatched from eggs. I just have a few questions here that the show doesn't answer. Can musical instruments that were grown from seeds lay eggs and vice versa? Or do they have to reproduce in the way that they are born? Also, the show never differentiates which musical instruments are alive and which ones aren't. Maybe all are alive, but In every episode, Quincy plays at least one musical instrument, so if they're alive, that means musical instruments are not just alive because they can reproduce, but they're fully sentient too. In a lot of episodes, we see them communicate with the Little Einsteins, and they can make their own choices. Musical instruments also seem like very social creatures. There's a section of the ocean called Orchestra Ocean where it's just a bunch of musical instruments hanging out and playing music together. There are a lot of episodes too where we see musical instruments hanging out in other places. In episode 8, friend groups of musical instruments go to watch the Dragon Kite Parade together. In episode 11, musical instruments go trick-or-treating. In season 2, episode 9, musical instruments organize their own search party for a missing baby cello, and there are other episodes where we see musical instruments show up as party guests. Musical instruments have come so far as a class of living beings that some of them have evolved. Some of the creatures we see in the show have a musical instrument base for their body, but they're more than just a musical instrument. For example, in season 2, episode 32, we see musical instrument fairies, and in season 2, episodes 27 and 30, we see musical instrument dinosaurs, like the Harpodon, Oboraptor, Piccolodactyl, Basosaurus rex, and Stegotriangle. Even when living musical instruments are just musical instruments, they're still a lot more advanced than wild animals. We see them have their own societies and kingdoms. Like in season 2, episode 13, we meet a princess bassoon. Musical instruments are also a part of advancing technologies. In the first episode of season 2, Quincy shows us his special box of musical instruments that can turn into different forms of transportation or different animals when played. Beyond just living musical instruments, music also has the power to bring illustrations to life. In a lot of episodes, the Little Einsteins tell us a story from a book or from a piece of art, and as soon as music starts playing, the picture starts moving. And no, this is not just an animation choice. The characters point out that they can see the pictures moving too, so music really does have the power to animate them. There are even some stories that are entirely written in sheet music, no words, no pictures, just as soon as someone starts playing the music, the story comes to life. Music is something physically tangible too. In a lot of episodes, we see music notes. And again, no, this is not just an animation style to show that music is playing. The music notes are three-dimensional, and the characters can see and touch them too. As the clearest example of this, in season 2, episode 2, Hansel and Gretel leave a trail of music notes to find their way back. If music notes are replacing breadcrumbs here and can be picked up and you can leave a trail of them, then they're clearly something physical that you can hold. We also see that music notes can grow on trees, and creatures called music pets eat them, but more on music pets later. Another tangible music structure that's just accepted in the Little Einsteins universe are musical roller coasters in the sky. The name pretty clearly describes what these are. They're roller coasters that float in the sky, but they're called musical roller coasters because their tracks look like sheet music. How did engineers manage to build this? That question never gets answered. Even though they're called roller coasters, they're more like highways, but with loop-de-loops and steep drops because they have a bring-your-own-vehicle policy, and you can also choose how long you want to stay on them. Signs describe their speed limits in music terms. For example, if a part says accelerando, that means you need to gradually get faster and faster. There are also multiple music roller coasters across the Earth. Over the course of the series, we see 4 of them. We know they're not the same ones because they're in different parts of the world. They have different tracks, and some of them are built in different colors. Some musical roller coasters also have obstacles along the way. For example, a rhythm gate that only opens when you play the same rhythm back to it. Music also acts as a form of communication in Little Einsteins. And I don't just mean that in a way of like, music is a way of expressing yourself, but music acts as a universal language between species. In every episode, the kids have to communicate with non-human characters, whether these are animals or inanimate objects or blobs from a painting. None of these ever talk though. The way they communicate is by singing out a melody, and then the Little Einsteins can tell exactly what they're saying. Different creatures can also be identified by the type of instrument and the tune that they're playing, but these don't stay consistent across episodes. For example, there was one episode where music was playing and the kids were like, "Do you hear that?" And I thought, "A violin?" And they were like, "That's right, a snake." But then a few episodes later, cows make the violin sound. Now that we understand the importance of music in Little Einsteins, let's go into Rocket. Rocket is a rocket who is also named Rocket. Even though he's a mode of transportation, he's also a fifth main character. Like living musical instruments, he's not just an inanimate object, he's very much a sentient being. Even though he can't use words, he communicates with this dinging kind of sound effect, coupled with the way his antenna moves, and he gets along really well with the kids, so he's like another friend to them. I also consider him a fifth main character because on missions he offers suggestions to help out, so he's not just a chauffeur. To show you more about how Rocket is alive, he's able to feel emotions. For example, he feels surprised when the little Einsteins scare the hiccups out of him, and he feels intimidated when he enters the Great Sky Race and sees other aircrafts who are bigger than him. Rocket is also able to feel physical sensations, like his stomach rumbles when he's hungry, he shivers when he's cold, he's able to catch viruses, and he has allergies. Rocket is also very high tech. In the series, he comes equipped with all these different kinds of gadgets. I would lose track if I listed them out, so I'm just going to name them all on the screen. But to go over some of them, these range from ones that are very helpful and are used in almost every episode. For example, he has a look and listen scope that uses sound waves to produce a very clear image about what's going on in unlimited distance away from him. Another helpful one are called grabber nabbers, which are mitten-like claws so that Rocket is able to pick things up. Some other gadgets, though, are really only useful in very specific situations, like giant skis, but Rocket is prepared. In addition to these gadgets, Rocket also comes equipped with different buttons that allow him to imitate different animals. Some of the ones we see are growing a long neck like a giraffe, which can grow taller and taller by singing higher, growing an elephant's trunk and ears, sprouting the arms of a chimp, fully taking on the shape of a giant eagle ray, lighting up his floor like a firefly, sprouting extra body segments and legs to imitate a grubworm, and growing a spider's legs that can even spin webs. Since Rocket can shapeshift into different animals, it shouldn't surprise you that he can also turn into different kinds of vehicles. There are so many that I would lose track listing them out, so again, I'm just going to put them on the screen, but some of these get very specific. For example, not only can Rocket turn into a boat, but he can turn into the exact kind of boat that fits your situation. For example, a Viking ship versus a raft versus a generic boat. Rocket is so high tech that he powers up from passengers patting their laps. I know I covered this a little when I talked about the structure of the show, but in every episode, once the little Einsteins decide on a mission of the day and climb aboard Rocket, they make a really big deal about patting their laps faster and faster to fuel up Rocket. Imagine if cars could be powered this way. We need to get Rocket's engineers in touch with car manufacturers because they have the power to stop climate change. This piece about Rocket is kind of contradicted in season 2 though, because its 7th episode shows that rockets also need musical gasoline to fuel up. Maybe Rocket is still eco-friendly, but before I can say for sure, I need some more information on where musical gasoline comes from. Is it a fossil fuel? Is it a renewable resource? What's its effect on pollution? Anyway, this is contradicted in season 2 again though, because episodes 14 and 16 show that rockets also need to eat healthy foods. So which one is it? Do rockets power up from passengers patting their laps, from musical gasoline, or from eating healthy foods? If it's all three, does being higher in one source make up for being lower in another? Like, if you're a rocket and your passengers are patting their laps and you're eating healthy foods,
Do you still need musical gasoline? Anyway, another miracle of Rocket is that he can fly halfway across the world and throughout outer space in just a matter of minutes. Again, we need to get Rocket's manufacturers in touch with NASA, because if space travel could be done that quickly, I'm sure we would know a lot more about our universe by now. Rocket can even detect wormholes in outer space that can take the little Einsteins to exactly wherever they want to go. How has no one flagged down Rocket's engineers? If Rocket is so high-tech that he can shapeshift into different things, then how do we know he's actually a rocket and not just something else that's choosing to look like a rocket for now? Well, this is because we see Rocket when he was first made, which brings us to Rocket's backstory. The 16th episode of season 1 goes into how the little Einsteins got started. The origin story is Rocket started out as a part of Leo's Crimmobile back when he was a baby. Also, as a little Easter egg, the Crimmobile plays the Mission of the Day song. When Leo outgrew his crib, Rocket and the Babymobile were put away. One day when Leo's older though, he thinks of Rocket again, and Rocket comes back to him. In the episode, they look all around the world for a new home for Rocket, only to end up right back in their own backyard, but this gives them the idea to continue taking on new missions of the day, wherever it might take them. Now, it's really cool that we get to have any kind of origin story, but there are some gaps here. It's never explained what Rocket does in the time between being in Leo's Crimmobile to coming back to the little Einsteins fully grown. According to Google, most children stop sleeping in a crib when they're between 1.5 to 3 years old. So if Leo was about 2 when his crib was put away, and he's 6 years old now, what was Rocket doing in those 4 years? Are other people aware that rockets from Babymobiles can be alive? Or did Rocket have to live in hiding? I don't know. Also, we never see any other Crimmobiles, so we don't know if all rockets from Crimmobiles are alive or if somehow Rocket is the exception. To make Rocket's origin even more complicated, in season 2 we find out that Rocket has a grandma. Now, one thing I noticed. Rocket is red while his grandma is purple. The show never really goes into Rocket genetics, but since Rocket and his grandma have related but different colors, I think it kind of means that Rocket genetics are just as complex as human genetics. You know, different allele types, meiosis, etc. You get it. Another thing about Rocket's grandma, she has glasses! This means that vehicles can have bad vision too. I wonder, can human ophthalmologists do eye exams on rockets, or do vehicles need their own specialized doctors, kind of like how they're veterinarians for animals? It's also never explained how Rocket goes from being born into a family to ending up in a Babymobile, but I have a theory. Okay, my own idea is that Babymobiles are kind of like eggs, but for rocket ships. So when a rocket is having a baby, it lays an egg, which is really a Babymobile, and then it sells this off to a human family because rent ain't cheap and it needs to make some extra money somehow, but it knows that one day its kid will return. Yep, that's my idea. Rocket and his grandma also aren't even the only living vehicles that we see. In episode 9, a train invites the kids to a party, and in other episodes, the kids go to car races and aircraft races where there are other living vehicles. Even toy vehicles can be alive, like Purple Plane and Green Helicopter from season 2, episode 10. Out of all the living vehicles in the Little Einsteins universe, there are 2 in particular I want to talk more about. The first is Carmine the music car. Carmine is a car, but with a trumpet engine, a trombone horn, and bass drum tires. He's friends with Quincy, not the rest of them, just Quincy, and Quincy tells us that there are no other cars like Carmine. Now, in the episode, Carmine is bullied for being different, and then it turns out that the things that make him different actually help him. So I don't want to complain too much because I know this episode is meant to be encouraging for kids who feel different and who are bullied for it. But in terms of lore, it's inconsistent with what we've already learned about living vehicles. If Carmine has biological parents like other living vehicles, he must really be an anomaly if he's nothing like his biological parents. I guess this is possible, but it just seems improbable to have that many genetic mutations. If Carmine was made in a factory instead, what's the magic ingredient that can turn manufactured goods into sentient beings? The other living vehicle I want to dive further into is Big Jet. This is Big Jet, and he's a reoccurring antagonist in the show. He appears in 11 different episodes, which is more than any other secondary character. We first meet him in the 3rd episode of the show when Rocket enters the Great Sky Race. This race is a big deal amongst aircrafts, and the goal is to fly all around the world and be the first one to come back. From the start, Big Jet uses his size to intimidate his competitors, and it's clear that he'll use any means necessary to win. This is pretty typical of Big Jet to cheat. A lot of times he'll also steal something from the main characters, and the plot of the episode is trying to get it back. The way Big Jet steals kind of reminds me of a more successful version of Swiper though. Most of the time, his stealing goes like this. Here's a giant goodie bag with everything we need to put on the party. It would be a shame if someone stole it. What's that? Big Jet? Where? Behind me? Oh no! Now, the worst thing Big Jet does, in my opinion, is when he steals the soup that Rocket made for his sick grandma. To me, this is a lot more malicious than playground theft because Big Jet knows that Rocket's grandma is elderly, he knows that she's not feeling well, and he still decides to steal the food that her grandson made specifically for her. I would have a hard time forgiving this. Big Jet doesn't leave off the series as an antagonist though. In season 2, episode 36, which is the 5th to last episode of the show and the last episode where we see Big Jet, the Little Einsteins class at school is putting on show and tell. Big Jet steals the objects that the Little Einsteins were going to show their class, but when they get them back, Big Jet is sad because he only stole them because he doesn't have anything for show and tell. The kids immediately forgive everything Big Jet has ever done and want to make him feel happy. I don't know about you guys, but I was not satisfied with this ending to Big Jet's arc. It would be one thing if this was the only episode where Big Jet appears, but it's not. It's not the first time where Big Jet has stolen something or cheated, and we never hear him apologize for any of the other times. Also, maybe in the show and tell episode, what he steals this time isn't that serious, but he's done more serious things in the past, like when he stole the soup for Rocket's sick grandma, and I think his apology should take more than just saying sorry once after his scheme fails. Not just with Big Jet, but overall, I feel the show does a very poor job of handling bullies. A lot of antagonists just last one episode, but they're handled in the same way as Big Jet. Most of them are from a fairy tale, and in the episode, they lock up the good guys, or they put them under a sleeping spell, or they turn them to stone or something. The Little Einsteins save the day, and then the bad guy says they only did it because they were sad and they didn't like how everyone else got to be happy, or they just wanted to make music too, but they were nervous to join in. These motives might be relatable for the age range that Little Einsteins is meant for, and to give the showmakers the benefit of the doubt, maybe they were trying to say that if you make a mistake, you can make up for it, so your past actions don't have to define your current ones. But I think the show should have taken into consideration the magnitude of what the antagonists have done. If you freeze an entire kingdom because you're lonely, you still froze an entire kingdom. Also, even childhood bullying can still leave lasting damage, and just saying sorry isn't always enough to help people heal. The reformed antagonists also only apologize after the little Einsteins foil their plans. They never feel bad and want to change on their own. There's one case in particular I want to get more into. In season 1, episode 14, the little Einsteins intervene in a story about a good knight and a bad knight. By the end of the episode, the bad knight decides that he's going to be good now, and his suit of armor changes color from bronze to silver to show that he's good. Why does his suit of armor have to change color for him to be good? I just don't think it's a good message in a kids show to imply that changing your appearance indicates if someone is good or bad now. It's okay to show that people can change, and if it's done right, that can be a good message to show kids, but it's your actions that show if you've changed, not your appearance, and also forgiveness can take time. Moving on from bullies, let's go into magic. It should be obvious by now that magic exists in this universe. If animals can talk, if vehicles are alive, and if music controls the entire universe, then obviously magic exists. But there's even more world bending going on. First of all, fairy tales exist in this universe. And it's not even that they exist, but it's how they exist. To explain what I mean, a lot of episodes where the little Einsteins get involved in a fairy tale start out with them reading a book. When they get to the part where the bad guy takes over, the kids say, "We need to help!" And then Rocket takes them to wherever the fairy tale takes place, even if this setting is made up. When the kids arrive, they take over the role of the hero, they defeat the bad guy, save the princess or the kingdom, yada yada, you get it, and then they go back home and completely forget that the book exists. So you see, it's not even that fairy tale characters are real and that the little Einsteins carry out their stories, but reading the book at the beginning completely changes how space-time works in this universe. It means that someone already published this story, but somehow it's going on at the same time, but somehow the ending is already written, but somehow you can still intervene. This isn't the only unusual aspect of space-time in the Little Einsteins universe. We also see machines that can control what time of year it is. The first machine we see like this is the seasons machine. It sounds just like how it's named. Whoever's holding the machine can control what season it is. And it's not just that the machine can control the temperature or the weather or create seasonal elements, but it actually changes the season. When Big Jet changes the season from spring to fall, we see all of the tree leaves around them change color. Now, seasons appear because of the Earth's tilt and the sun, so I guess this means just by pushing a button you can control the Earth's tilt in outer space. Also, the machine must speed up time as well, because even if you could change the Earth's tilt, it would still take some time for the changes to take effect, but immediately after Big Jet uses the seasons machine, the leaves start changing color in just a few seconds. The other machine that really makes me question how time works is the birthday machine. Again, it sounds just like how it's named. Whoever plays with it, it's now their birthday. This means that a machine has the ability to speed up time and age everyone. What makes it even more confusing is that if multiple people turn on the birthday machine together, it becomes all of their birthdays, right now, at the same time, even though their birthdays are still on different calendar days. Also, I could see how, as a kid, having your birthday every day sounds fun, but at my age, this actually sounds like a science fiction nightmare. I'm not even that old, and I already feel like time is going by too fast. The idea that I could age faster because some kid out there wants it to be their birthday again and again and again and again is actually a nightmare. This whole machine sounds dangerous, really, and should be kept out of reach from kids. If you think about it, in just 3 months, one unsupervised kid could age the entire Earth by 90 years. The last machine that changes how physics works in the Little Einsteins universe is the big and small machine. Like its name implies, this is basically a grow or shrink ray. It goes in the direction depending on the volume of the music it's playing. When it plays music loudly, it grows objects, and when it plays music quietly, it shrinks them. It also doesn't just work on inanimate objects, it can work on living things like people too. Besides the physics and space-time altering, we also have some Christmas magic. Santa exists, but rather than his elves making toys, instead he delivers magic gift boxes to everyone. And right before you open them, you're supposed to concentrate on what you really want, and it will appear inside the box. Santa doesn't even need to climb down chimneys either. Instead, he just has to pass by homes, and the gift boxes will magically appear under the Christmas tree. In some ways, though, I feel this is less magical because it means that Santa doesn't need to figure out what every individual person wants, and he doesn't need to be as stealthy if he's not even entering homes. The system also has some technical difficulties because Santa accidentally drops off Annie's gift at the top of Mount Everest. Little Einsteins also has some mythical creatures. Most are from fairy tales or mythology, but there are two that are original to Little Einsteins. The first one are music pets. These are small, fuzzy creatures with eighth-note-shaped ears, and they can be conducted like orchestras to sing music. Like their name implies, people also keep them as pets. The other mythical creature original to Little Einsteins are music robot aliens. Like most things in the Little Einsteins universe, their name pretty accurately describes what they are. These are robots from Planet Robot who make music, and they're fueled by colorful batteries. Just to point out physics again, the Little Einsteins first spot the music robot aliens through a telescope. If you've ever looked through a telescope before, you would know that even whole planets still just appear as tiny dots. So these robots must be almost unimaginably large because when the Little Einsteins see them through a telescope, they take up the entire frame. To reinforce how big they are, you can also see the music robot aliens standing individually when you look down at their planet from outer space. So if physics was consistent, these robots would be much, much, much larger than any planet in our solar system. Somehow, though, when they come down to Earth, this is their size in comparison to the Little Einsteins. Physics. Maybe it's because physics and space-time work so unusually in the Little Einsteins universe, but a lot of off-screen characters also make some very unusual, just weird and irrational decisions. To give an example of what I mean, in season 2, episode 9, the Little Einsteins visit a zoo. They go during the middle of the day, the zoo seems very open, and then all of a sudden, the zoo closes. There are no announcements that the zoo is closing. There are no signs with zoo hours. There's no one trying to usher out visitors to make sure the zoo is empty. The zoo just closes randomly in the middle of the day without warning, and the only way out for visitors who are locked in is a key that's hanging around a giraffe's neck. Who came up with this idea? I need to ask about their logic. Okay, this is it for the magical part of the Little Einsteins lore, so let's finally get to the question I know a lot of you are asking. Where are their parents? I know this is going to seem very unsatisfying, but the answer is the show never says. It doesn't even give hints about where they are. The only kind of clues we see are that they are in their kids' lives. The Little Einsteins live in really nice houses, and we see their neighborhood and their big backyards, so it seems like they grew up in the typical white picket fence suburbs with their parents watching over them. We also see the Little Einsteins go to school, so most likely an adult enrolled them. And Leo shows us his baby pictures, so someone had to take them, and someone had to put together the rocket baby mobile. So it does seem like their parents are in their lives, they exist, but we don't know if they're aware that their kids travel around the world unsupervised. The one thing I was able to figure out, though, is that it seems like the Little Einsteins live on the west coast of the US. This seems like the most probable location because in a few episodes, the Little Einsteins go on a race around the world, and they start out by going through the US west to east, then they continue to Europe, then continue going eastward, and after stopping somewhere in Eastern Asia, their last stop is at the starting point again. This order would make most sense if the Little Einsteins are starting out on the west coast. In another episode, when the Little Einsteins are on their way to Scotland, they make a pit stop in Utah. Utah is only on the way to Scotland if you're starting out somewhere further south and west. But like I said before, a lot of characters in Little Einsteins make very irrational decisions, so who knows for sure. Now let's talk about season 1 versus season 2. Little Einsteins only has 2 seasons, and if you watched the episodes as they were coming out, they probably feel alike enough, but binge watching them, there are some noticeable differences between the seasons. The first one, I've said this before, but season 1 has the Mission of the Day song, while season 2 has the Curtain Call song. Season 1 episodes also seemed more focused on traveling to different parts of the world, while most season 2 episodes were retellings of different fairy tales. In season 1, most obstacles where the characters break the fourth wall were also about identifying music, while in season 2 there are some musical obstacles, but a lot more of them are about dancing and maneuvering. My guess as to the reason behind this change is I remember when I was growing up, I heard a lot on the news about how kids were watching more TV and not exercising enough. So I think this was probably Disney trying to get kids to exercise as they were watching TV. And the last noticeable difference is that season 2 added a segment near the end of every episode called Super Fast, where the characters need to rush somewhere on Rocket. So they use increasingly faster music terms to help him fly faster. So they start with Adagio, then Moderato, next Allegro, and finally Presto, and by that point they're flailing their arms around like crazy. Season 2 also contradicts a lot of the lore that season 1 built up. I covered all of these examples before, but to recap, season 1 shows that musical instruments grow from seeds, while season 2 shows that they hatch out of their cases like eggs. Season 1 also shows that Rocket started out as a part of Leo's babymobile, while season 2 shows that Rocket has a grandma and a family. And in season 1, Rocket can only power up by passengers patting their laps, while in season 2, Rocket needs musical gasoline, which is later contradicted again in the season when it shows that Rocket actually fuels up by eating healthy foods. There is some kind of timeline though. Both seasons have an episode about a great sky race. In season 2, they call it a rematch, and they reference the episode from season 1, and they say that happened last year, so I guess there is some kind of timeline, and the events of season 2 are supposed to be 1 year later from season 1. The last thing with season 2. There's a secret series finale. I didn't even realize this until I was halfway through writing this script. What I mean by a secret series finale is, if you go to Disney Plus and search for Little Einsteins, season 2 shows 39 episodes.
See? 39 episodes.
If you Google Little Einsteins episode list for season 2, it shows 39 episodes.
See? 39 episodes.
So I think Little Einstein season 2 has 39 episodes, because why would I think otherwise? As I'm writing this script, I'm browsing the Little Einsteins wiki to check my details, and I come across a page for an episode that I don't remember that says it's the 40th episode of season 2. I'm wondering, is this real, or is this just a fan fiction idea? I check Disney Plus, and again, there are just 39 episodes for season 2. So I Google this missing episode, and enough comes up where it seems like it was made, and I noticed the IMDb pages for the voice actors all list this episode. Luckily, I was able to find the full episode on YouTube, so it's not lost media. I will say, as the last episode in the series, It did feel like a satisfying enough conclusion. There weren't really storylines to wrap up, unless you count the unanswered question of where their parents are. But this episode was longer than the others. It was 50 minutes, while most Little Einsteins episodes are just a little more than 20. So there was more time to develop a story, and the bad guy of the episode, an evil ogre, is a lot stronger than the other antagonists we've seen. So as the kids work to defeat him, you can see how much they've grown. Now finally, I want to share a conspiracy theory that I have. I firmly believe that Annie from Little Einsteins and Annie from the Magic Treehouse are the same person. I have held onto this conspiracy theory really for as long as Little Einsteins has been out, because that was around the time when I was reading the Magic Treehouse books, and I felt like there were a little too many similarities between the Annies. First of all, physically, they're the same person. Both of them are named Annie, and they both have blonde hair that they wear in pigtails. They also have the same family background. Both of them have an older brother with approximately the same age difference, who has a different hair color than them and who wears glasses. I know in Little Einsteins, Annie is 4 while Leo is 6, so there's a 2-year age difference. While in the Magic Treehouse, Annie is 7 while Jack is 8, so there's a 1-year age difference. But this could still work out if Annie from Little Einstein's birthday comes before Leo's. They also have kind of the same personality. In Little Einsteins, Annie is the lyricist and main singer of the group, and in the Magic Treehouse books, I think I remember her being the more musically inclined one too. I feel like I remember her breaking out into songs sometimes, and sometimes even making up her own songs as part of their quests. In the Magic Treehouse books, Annie is also the imaginative and hopeful one as the younger sister, and in Little Einsteins, Annie as the youngest one in the group definitely has this kind of vibe too. Both of them also easily make friends with everyone, whether it's with an animal or an alien or a local to the place they're visiting. Both of them make friends very easily. Little Einsteins and the Magic Treehouse also have very similar premises. In both cases, a group of young kids have a means to travel all around the world unsupervised. They learn about new places they travel to because it has to be educational while saving the day, but then they still make it home in time for dinner. Even if these two Annies aren't living the exact same life, I still believe that at the very least, they are alternates of each other in the same multiverse. Alright, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, it's Sophia.